Oh my gosh. Okay. Hello there, happy campers. I got this 63 VW van bus that I am trying to restore. Obviously, it has a lot of body work that I haven't really even messed with yet. But right now, I'm just trying to get the wheels on it so I can, work on it and roll it around, maybe even drive it around town while I'm doing all this body work. So the problem, I'm working on the rear, I'm trying to switch from the stock wheels right here, which are real thin and they're not super pretty or anything. And I'm trying to go with the Impy wheels, and these really aren't even the wheels that I want. I'm going to go chrome, but this was in the van when I bought it, so I might as well use them. Maybe I can paint them, and I just don't like the black. The wheel's okay, so I might paint them or try to get them polished or something. But, I've got 195 65s, R15s on it, and so I'm going to put these on the rear. The problem I'm running into when I got the van is they run about 1/4 inch off the fender, and so when you jack it up to try to get the tires off or work on it or do anything, it pulls this fender way out because the axle goes down, the wheel comes out, it starts pushing. It's already messed up, my fender here just from the setup. So obviously that's not going to work. So I'm trying to figure out how to get these on. So here's what I found out. And when you call all the professionals and everything, they all give you the same old story. Oh, they try to... So these are my options, and I pretty much got quite a few. I got the disc brake setup with the 5-lug right here, and I was going to convert it to disc brakes. I figured, why not? None of these parts are really here anyways. I might as well just do the discs. When I called, they tell you the same old thing. Oh, this fits everything. It's factory and all that stuff. No, it's not. Okay? When I put this on, I actually pushed my wheel out. I wrote it down about 6. I measured from my beam support here, my axle support, and if I put this on, you have to take your drum shoes off, and then you put on your disc brake attachment there, and put on the disc. And you put this on. This actually pushes my wheel out to 6 1/4 inches from the beam, from the axle support, which basically puts my tire up in the fender, and I can't even use this. So, people are going to try to sell you this disc brake setup, and it's just not going to work. So, why even bother? I guess they make shorter axles. I believe this is the long axle, solid axle. So this isn't going to work, and it does push it out to 6 1/4 inches past your support. So measure everything. So that's not going to work. So that was a total waste of money. The next option is, I believe this is a bug transmission out of like a 69 or 70 long axle, and it came with the 4-lug, so this was on here. It had a 4-lug setup and it uses, the bigger 14 millimeter lug nuts on it. And if you measure from this, when you put it on, you actually come out to about 5 1/2 inches. But because it's a 4-lug and I wanted to go to my 5-lug, I had to buy this adapter plate and put it on there, which pushed it out to about 6 1/8, which is where it was when I bought the van. It had this on there, and it was running about 1/4 inch off my fender, which is really tight. Anytime you go over a speed bump and the tire comes down, it rubs up against the fender. So obviously you cannot use these wider, this is a wide bug 6970s axle and it has the wide brake shoes. These are about 1.5 inches wide brake shoes. So I have these two setups and they don't work. So what I ended up doing is I went down and I picked up a factory, well, I guess it's a 69, the same bug drum with the 5-lug. Okay, so now I don't have to use my adapter plate, which saves me 1/2 inch, and it's got the 5-lug, so I can bolt it right on. And when I put this on, I will be running right around 5 1/4. So by changing from this, and also another thing to realize is this comes with a much thinner brake shoe. So when you do switch, this drum is smaller than the 4-lug drum. So you can see, you know, this is probably like an inch. Okay, 1.25 inches. This is 1.5 inches, which is what was on it. You know, the 69 4-lug is 1.5 inches. So I'm losing a nice 1/4 inch there by doing this. Make sure when you get the drum that you get the disc brakes. But not only do you get the disc brake or the new shoes to go with your smaller drum, you also need to get your retaining clips, because the stock ones are 1/4 inch longer. So you've got, you know, the retaining clips. If you put those up, yeah, they're 1/4 inch shorter. So be sure and get new springs that go through the center that hold the shoes. You need those too. Otherwise, when you put it on and you put in your lugs are going to hit your springs. So you are going to have to get the whole thing, the shoes and the springs, to so that your lug bolts don't run up against it. So that's going to save you some time, because I had to go to the parts store a couple times just to make sure. So this is the setup I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the 5-lug. And when this wheel is on, I'm actually about 1 inch in. So I pushed it in 3/4 inch by switching to this. So because I don't have to run my adapter plate, and it's much narrower. So this is the way I'm going to go. I'm not going to go with the disc brakes in the back. Who cares? I don't need it. I do have disc brakes on the front. So we're going to go with this, and I'm going to do all new seals up here, and then I'm going to put this in with the 5-lug, and that's going to be the solution. I've already done the other side, and it looks good. I got about 1 inch worth of fender clearance, and I'm actually able to get my tire off, you know, without having to. I practically had to take the axles out and swing them way back just to get my tire off, or I had to deflate my tire, let all the air out just to get it off the car, which is ridiculous. So this is the setup I'm going to go with. I'm also going to go with new boots. One thing I did notice is make sure when you do new boots like this that you go at the 45-degree angle. Don't put the seam at the top. You know, I would love to do that, because then it's guaranteed not to leak. But when your axle swings down, it's going to rip that. It's not very movable. So if you go at the 45, it's more flexible and you won't leak. I would probably even recommend sealing this, maybe even with some rubber cement, or use some silicone sealers. I'm not going to at this time, because I may end up taking this apart before I actually put it on the road. So, but I would probably seal it, because I can definitely see some problems with this. If I was to make this boot, I would definitely have a metal retaining clip to keep this pressure even. And they don't do that. I'm almost guaranteed this thing's going to leak. But I'm going to put it on without the sealant. And they say it's not going to leak, but I'm pretty sure it will. So that's my solution. Another thing, let me check. Okay. All right. Another thing I want to talk about when you are going to do these things is almost everything I've done. You know, when you go to the parts stores, they never have. They tell you it's going to work, and then you get home and it's not going to work. So another problem that I had is, look at this. When I picked up the bus, I towed it home and the wheel came off. These spacers, I think the guy, from what I look, I can see that this is stripped and this is stripped, and these look brand new. So I can tell he only had 2 lugs in here to start with, and I was actually flat towing this home and the wheel came off. So, but also, when I look at the bolts that came with it, I mean, if you go through this, and when you bolt it down, these adapter plates are just nasty, and you know, they're just stripping out. I can see that this bolt only went in about 4 threads before it locks up. These bolts are too short. I'm telling you, you're going to have to like make your own bolts. These things, this is ridiculous. If you do decide to go with this, check your bolts, put everything together, and look at it, and make sure that it's going all the way through or something, because if it's not, go get a longer bolt and cut it down. Another thing I have is I just looked at the actual, that's just the spacer plate. The actual bolts that go through here and through my wheel. So here, if I look at this, I'm looking at the factory bolts that you buy that come with these wheels. I looked at them, and when I put it through, and I put it through my new setup, because I'm making sure all the bolts are the length I want, because my wheel came off, and I want to be cautious. when I went through my tire with my new lug bolt and went into here, it actually went, well, if you go with the factory ones that came with it, they were actually short by about, I could see maybe at least one thread, if not 1.5 to 2 threads short. So I'm only running about 3/8 worth of threads. And that's just really scary for me. So I went down to my local tire store. You know, any tire store that you see, they got a whole bunch of, you know, chrome rims out the window. You go in there, they've got the bolts. These are called Ballsies bolts. And they've got a special end on them that is kind of like a ball. They're not, you know, and they're going to fit the MPs. And then these were what I think, take your gauge, and I measured them. I think this one came at about 27 millimeters, and when I went through, it came out about 1/4 of an inch past my bolt holes, and they were actually hitting my brake shoes. So I grinded them down to around 21. So I grinded them down to 21 millimeters. I cut it through the chop saw. So yeah, 22 millimeters. And which is about a 1/16 of an inch through. So I'm actually going through all the way, and I'm coming out about a 1/16 of an inch out. So that way I get all the threads, and I'm getting as much support as I possibly can without hitting my brake shoes. And that seemed to work with me. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to even use these bolts that came with the kit, you know, the special bolts. So always, you know, pre-assemble everything before you put it in your car and make sure that it all works. Because the stuff I am buying, nothing works. In fact, even these springy things that came, they had a huge tip on them, and they were hitting my lug bolt. So I grinded them down. They had like a 1/4 inch worth of tip on here. I grinded them down, you know, to like 1/8, 3/16 here, because they were just way too, it's just ridiculous. Some of this stuff doesn't work. I have to double check everything. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going with the 5 lug. And I've got all my bolts cut, and I'm ready. I'm going to put the new shoe. I've got new seals, and that's what I'm going to go with. And I hope that is some advice on how this works. So, and I got it all painted and ready. And then the other side is on, so I'm really happy. I'm going to have all these wheels on. I've been trying to get these wheels on for about over a month, just playing with these different setups and people that tell me it's going to work when they don't work. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's my setup. Hope that helps you. Okay, I'm going to put this on. Happy camping.